All right, Brad Vincent with Realty Right Texas. You're used to seeing me put out real estate content, and typically when I put out content, I'm very focused on something happening in the market. I'm trying to advertise something to let everybody know this is what's happening, this is what we're doing. Here's how we're changing the way we offer on houses, whatever it is. But I got asked to speak at a speaking engagement last week. It was a conference on entrepreneurship, and a lot of it centered around real estate, lending, investing. But I got asked to speak on 3 different time slots in this conference. And what happened is I told a lot of stories about my dad inside of my little speech. And after each time slot, people would come up to me and tell me the dad stories were hilarious, or that they loved them, or that it hit home for them or something. And they would tell me, you need to put these out into the world somehow, start a podcast or something, right? I had been thinking about it too since he passed, that I really want his legacy out there. So I'm going to throw a story out here and see like what kind of feedback I get. And maybe I'll just keep putting these out there for people to hear. And it'll kind of be, what's the word I'm looking for? Therapy for me, even just to keep him out there, But this story is when I was young. I don't remember what age I was, but I had to be in like junior high. I got in trouble at the end of the school year, and I don't know what I did, but it was bad enough that my dad grounded me for the entire summer. I was always getting in trouble, so this is not like, that part's not very memorable to me. But the grounding for the summer was a big deal. Typically in the summer, you go to the pool with your friends and hang out and play, and you're free because your parents are at work, and all summer you get to party. But my dad knew you can't leave me at home or I'm going to get in more trouble, and he was trying to punish me. So he started taking me to work with him. And my dad was a CNC machine salesman, and he would take me up to his shop, and it really wasn't a very good punishment in the end because I ended up having a ball, right? I ended up meeting all the guys in the shop, and we start playing pranks on each other, and they teach me how to play poker and like gambling stuff, and like I ended up learning a lot about life, and I ended up having just a blast. And my dad was the top sales guy there, and all the other sales guys looked up to my dad, and he was known as the closer, right? My dad was the closer. So one day, we're about to leave the office, and I'm at the front desk, the reception desk, and there is this thing they call the fishbowl. It's like a little conference room with a window, it was like a row of windows, so you could see in there. And there was a group of dressed up businessmen in this conference room they call the fishbowl. And my dad is taking me out, and they go, John, hey, big guy, need you in there. And he goes, they can't close this deal? And they're like, no, they need you in there. They're buzzing for the big dog. And he's like, all right. And he looks at me and goes, son, listen to me. You're going to sit in this chair. You're going to wait for me to do this. It ain't going to take too long. I'm going to go in there and close this deal. I'll be back, and then we're going home. And he looked very serious, very confident, though. My dad goes into this office, this conference room, and I watch the whole thing. Everybody gets out of their chairs. His sales guys start pointing to him, and there's all these mannerisms. He shakes everybody's hands with this enthusiasm like my dad would do. But the event meant more to me because I didn't know what he was saying. So all I could see was the mannerisms, right? And I see my dad, there's like a bulletin board or whatever, like a dry erase board, and there's numbers on it. And I see him emphatically pointing at the board and then pointing down to the papers, and going, what are we going to do? And like doing all this stuff and da-da-da. And then all of a sudden everyone erupts and celebrates, and he's like, yeah, put her there. And he shakes their guys' hands, and everyone's shaking and shaking. And then he turns around to the sales guys, and the sales guys are like, yeah. And then they shake, and they're like, oh, John, we couldn't have done it without you. And all this stuff, And then my dad opens the door and talks to the receptionist and goes, put another one on the board, Susie. And he comes and gets me, and we walk out, and I'm like, what just happened, But I kind of knew, right? Like I kind of knew my dad just closed the deal, but I'm like, I don't know, like the 8th grade or something. But the story sticks out to me because he was like the hired gun, And seeing that stuff throughout my life, when it came time for me to close a deal, I always think about that. I always think about that, you want to be that guy. You want to be the guy that walks in and emphatically shakes everybody's hand and points at the statistics and then points down at the offer or whatever he was doing. And I remember it so well. And I had this sense like, yeah, I knew my dad was the guy because he's your dad, right? He's Superman. But now I really know. Like I sat there in that chair. It was about a 45-minute drive home on the Beltway. And I just thought, who is this guy? And I was so proud of something I didn't really understand, But my dad was a closer. And that job he had was just a step in the rung. He went way up the ladder and ended up being the top sales executive at a very large company. And I can't help but think of that story every time I think about sales. Because my dad was always lecturing me on sales. But I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen him walk in and be the closer, It was almost like a movie. So that's my first dad story.